Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jody Harrison Bauer, and I am so happy to have you join me today. If you are a first-time listener, welcome to the show. This is a show that will educate you, empower you, maybe entertain you a little bit, but inspire you to live the most fearlessly authentic life that you can. Because in my humble opinion, if we're not being fearlessly authentic, and I know it's not always easy, what the heck are we doing here? We're wasting a lot of time. And my guest is going to be talking a little bit about that today, but I'm so excited to share with you my guest. Before we do, I want to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe. We have a 5-star rating, and you can find me anywhere on all streaming podcast platforms, Fearlessly Authentic, and find me at Jody Harrison Bauer all over social media. Today, are you ready? I am thrilled to have Cayla Craft here with me. Welcome to the show, Cayla.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. Just a little bit about Cayla. Cayla is an inspirational speaker committed to helping individuals achieve their fullest potential. As the founder of Mommy Millionaire and Crafted Entrepreneur, Cayla is particularly committed to helping women shatter glass ceilings, break free from limiting beliefs, we all have them, and achieve financial independence. Her dynamic courses and speaking engagements have captivated audiences around the world, motivating them to take action and realize their dreams. At the heart of Cayla's mission is the belief that we all have the power to rewrite our stories and create extraordinary lives. Cayla is the author of What Do You Really Want and the creator of the Take 7 approach to personal growth and fulfillment, which has empowered thousands of women to pursue their dreams and live abundantly. In our conversation today, we will reveal the 7 questions that can transform your life and help you uncover your true purpose. Let's get into it. And I have your book right here, incredibly highlighted. It is like highlighted all over. Everybody, this is the book. What do you really want? And see, even my pen is
Yes.
still in there. I couldn't put it down. Honestly, I could not put it down. I feel like I know you so well. You were so open, vulnerable to share your journey
Yeah.
in the book. And there were a lot of moments throughout the book that I can relate to you. And I'm sure you've heard this from other people that have read the book. And congratulations. This is your first book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, it was just thrilling to read, and I learned a lot. And I
Mhm.
kept taking pictures and sending them to my daughters who are 31 and 35. I go, read
Oh,
this, read this, read this, read this. I'm going to buy the book for them and send it to them.
yay.
Yes, yes, for
Love it.
sure. So I wanted to start at the beginning. Can you share a little bit about your journey from being an ER nurse to becoming a successful entrepreneur and life coach? It's like,
I know this is the question that everybody starts with, and it feels like so many lifetimes ago, and I'm sure you feel like that too. Like there's so many like reiterations of your life. I forget sometimes. Oh yeah, I used to be an ER nurse.
I
So
know.
back when I was 23, I was an ER nurse. I had one son, and I was trying to get pregnant with my second child at the time. And I just remember looking around at the nurses I was working with, the doctors I was working with, and really like asking myself the question if they were happy.
Mm.
And going, I don't think any of them are happy. Like, really, honestly, and all of them seemed miserable. And so I knew enough to know that, like, okay, what I do now over the next 5 years will determine what's going to happen in my 30s and my 40s. So I need to start making moves right now. And I had previously been in network marketing, and like when I was 18, 19, going through college. And I liked the concept of being able to, be my own boss. And so I got involved in a network marketing company selling pro.
I was involved in the same one.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I know. We'll talk later about it.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I did that, and it was very much a whirlwind. I, uh, learned on the job all the skills, communication, sales, social media, marketing, all of that stuff. And then by the time I was 26, I had become a millionaire, which means that I had made a cumulative $1 million. And I was the first millionaire in my family. first millionaire in Chase's family, my husband. And I looked around. This was another pivotal moment in my life. I looked around and I go, oh my gosh, am I happy?
Mm.
And the answer was no, I wasn't happy. Like if I had to make another $1 million, I didn't want to do it that way. And so,
Right, because I just want to interrupt you for a second. That's a hustle. And a
yeah,
lot of people, they see people get up on stage and talk about how to make millions of dollars. And it's it's a hustle. It's you're not going to make millions if you're doing it part-time. And you were doing it part-time, right? Because you were a nurse and doing it part-time. So you must have been hustling big time. And you were great at what you did.
yeah. I like that you pointed that out because, I got pregnant with my second child while I was building this business. And I really don't remember her being a toddler. I mean, we traveled so much. I mean, I
Right.
just don't remember enjoying it at all.
Mm.
And so at 26, I had my third child. And I definitely knew I wanted things to be different with him. I wanted to enjoy it. My husband came home. We became a full-time family and we really started to go, what is it that we want for our lives, And okay, we have all this money, we have residual income coming in. What is it that we would do, if we never had to work another day in our life? And I'm like, I have to work. I love helping people. And I knew I wanted to continue to coach people, but I didn't want to be stuck in the box of network marketing.
Mhm.
I wanted to help all people,
Right.
specifically moms, figure out how to create financial freedom. And so that's when I started my coaching company. And we started out helping people with social media. And it's really evolved now into my Take 7 method, where, it's really transforming the way people do life. So that's kind of a short story
No, I love
how we landed here.
I love that story. And the Mommy Millionaire, I could see how you created that because at the time you were a mommy who wanted to make millions and
Yeah.
help other women because you attracted other moms that were tired of their jobs
Yep.
and they wanted to be like you. So your journey resonated with them. Uh, when I changed my life, I was in my 40s and, mommy wasn't what I was being called anymore. And I heard you on a recent podcast saying, my kids don't call me mommy anymore. And I remember, like I said, my daughters are 31 and 35. Every once in a while they'll throw out a mommy, but it's kind of a sad day when you're not that mommy anymore and you can't really relate to that, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And that's why, like, when you talk about why did I name the company Mommy Millionaire, it was partly, yeah, I wanted to help moms, but it was also a marketing play. I thought, okay, if I was a mom and I wanted to become a millionaire, what would I be searching on
Mm,
podcast? And
yeah.
I knew millionaire would be in the name. And so I'm like, okay, how do we, well, let's make it Mommy Millionaire. And I think that's what helped the podcast blow up so quickly is people would say, oh, I was searching mommy or they were searching millionaire. And
Brilliant.
it worked out.
It really, really did. So you decide you have to sit with yourself and figure out what's going to make me happy. I have the money. You
Yeah.
move into your dream house, right?
Yeah.
Do I have
And
this
I was
right?
already, yeah, I was already in my dream house. And
Okay.
actually, this is when I hired a coach for the first time
Mm,
because I go, something's wrong. I remember telling a friend that was in the network marketing industry with me, I go, something's wrong with me because I should be happy, right?
right.
And he was like, you need to talk to this guy. And so I hired him, and his name is Matthew Ferry. And he only worked with real estate agents at the time. And I convinced him to work with me. And it was really a great experience. We're still friends today. He actually lives in Orange County too, but I learned so much about myself. And I think that's what was pivotal in that time is I
Right.
became extremely self-aware. I think before that I had no self-awareness.
And
And
it
it helped me to a certain extent. I mean, I became extremely successful having no
Right.
self-awareness.
Right. Is because it's almost like you talk about inner child, and I really want to get into that, but it's almost like what was driving your business back then was the inner child, right? It was maybe fight or flight,
Yep.
inner child, little me driving that business just with not being scared at all because where you were, you knew you wanted to just elevate up and up
Yep.
and up. And you did. And once you got there, you look around and go, okay, did it. Now what? Help these women. Okay, now what? Why am
Yeah.
I? And that's what led you to be like, why am I sad? Like, why am
Yeah.
I not thrilled to death? This is what I wanted.
Yes. And a lot of people feel that way. It's like the expectation hangover, like Christine Hassler calls it. It's like, oh my gosh, I thought it was going to be something different. And it's like, no, you take you wherever you go. So if you were unhappy, unsatisfied with who you were when you first started your business, once you have the success, you're still going to be unhappy with yourself, and not content. So it's about, like, I think right now, if I could stress anything to people
Mhm.
listening in, it's like, figure out who you are. Figure out who
Clarity.
you are, because when you have that firm foundation of like who you are without all the titles, without all the money, the accolades, the network, that is what ultimately will bring you joy and fulfillment, is having that sturdy foundation.
Right. And not allowing yourself to be identified by the person you might be with. Or I know that when I got divorced, I was like, wait a minute, I'm not Mrs. So and so anymore. I'm
Aw.
not a wife anymore. I am my daughter's mom, but now who do I want to be?
Yeah.
And it's scary, but it's exciting at the same time because it does help you reframe and refocus, and you get into all of that. So, what inspired you to write What Do You Really Want?
So it's funny story. I tried to get a book deal about 6 years ago. And this is an important thing for everybody listening in to really pay attention to. I was doing well at the time. I had 100,000 followers on Instagram. I had a big email list. I would do a live video and 1,000 people would get on. People were excited about what I was talking about coaching wise.
Did you have to work anymore, or did you feel like you were okay with where you are
Um,
at the time?
I well, I still did have my network marketing business at this time.
Okay.
That was really, helping me be financially free. So I didn't
Right.
need to work, but I eventually, walked away. I don't know if you know that. I completely resigned and walked away from that income about 4 years ago.
I read about that.
Yeah, it was fun. Really great. So um anyway, so yeah, I would say I didn't have to make that money, but I wanted to.
Mhm. Sure.
Uh but so everything was going well for me. I thought there is absolutely like no way somebody's going to turn me down right now, because I have so much momentum around my brand, and my
Mm,
podcast was like number 50 at the time.
amazing.
And I got on a phone with an agent. Somebody connected me, and she was an agent for like Joel Osteen and like all these big names. And I tell her my idea, and she's like, "You're not ready. Nope, that's not a book. That's a great
Mhm.
idea, but it's not a book. And you're just not ready to be an author yet." And I was like, I was devastated, honestly, because I was like, kind of had a big head, and she deflated it for me. But it was honestly the best thing that could have happened, because I just go, you know what? Everything is about timing. And, most of the stuff that's happened in my life has been God. Well, all of the stuff has been like God, like now, 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 go, go, go. And so it just wasn't the right timing. So fast forward to about 2 years after that, I get an Instagram DM, which I know we've DM'd on Instagram. I love
Mhm.
Instagram. And she goes, "Okay, I've been binging your podcast. You need to write a book." And the name sounded familiar. And I was like, gosh, I don't know this like lady. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, haha. And I like, that's how I responded. I'm like, yay, yeah, good. And I'm thinking I was already rejected, lady. So don't, I didn't know
Right.
she was an agent that I had talked to years prior.
Right. You're
That was,
like, I'm not ready. Don't blow smoke up my butt
yeah,
because, like, I know I'm not ready. Like, forget
yeah.
it.
So she goes, "I'm Nina. I talked to you 2 years ago when I was with X company. I've been listening to your podcast, and I just quit that job to start my own boutique literary agency after like just getting up the nerve from listening to your podcast. You've changed my life. I want to rep your book, and let's do this." And it was like, wow. It couldn't have been better timing. And she got me an incredible book deal. And I really fleshed out. I'm glad it didn't happen, 6 years ago,
Mhm.
because the Take Seven method wasn't complete yet. And now it's like been so ironed out, and the book is so amazing. Like you loved it. I love it
I
too.
loved it.
So yeah, that's how it happened. And I think that's important for people listening in. Maybe the first time you go after something, you get a no, you get a closed door. Keep getting ready for the blessing, because if you've been called to it, eventually it's going to be yours. So keep becoming the person that's going to be ready. Like especially 6 years ago, I wasn't ready to be an author. Like I just wasn't. And I've had negative things already said about the book. I've had positive things. And I'm neutral about all of it, because I'm just like, you know what? if it affects one person, like even if it just affects Jody, I'm happy. And 6 years ago, I would not. I would have been like, oh, no, it needs to affect millions, you
I
know?
know.
So I've grown into that person, and whatever you're going after right now in your life, you'll grow into the person that can handle all of the responsibility and the influence that comes when you finally get your yes, when you finally get your open door.
I love that because I believe it's true, but in the moment, I know I've had those situations. I'm sure you just shared one of yours. It's so hard to sit with that when you think you're ready, but somebody tells you you're not. Now you could go and ask many people, right? But if this is a trusted person, then you have to take what they're saying to heart and
Right.
maybe take a step back from our ego and say, all right, maybe I'm not ready.
Mm.
But it's
And I
hard to
think
do that.
that is important, right? Like if it you don't listen to somebody that doesn't have the experience that's going to tell you no, but if it's somebody that you really want to that you really believe in, that you want to work with, that you admire, respect, you know, and then you want to take a little bit of their feedback, you know, and don't take it as no forever. It's just a no for now.
Have when you decided to write the book, did you put everything else aside a little bit so you can focus on it? How do you think on an on a regular day? Do you work on several things at a time?
Yeah, I'll tell you my exact strategy, and I steal this strategy because at the time when I finally got the book deal, I was still the breadwinner of our house, and
Mhm.
I had walked away from the big income. And really, you know, we had Mommy Millionaire, we have our real estate investments, but they don't make enough for us to live on,
Right.
you know, and we live in the most expensive city, I feel like, in the country. So we have to make a lot of money. And I was like, I remember telling Nina, I don't have time to like take a break and write a book. And she's like, you need to get a ghostwriter. And so I interviewed several ghostwriters and I hired I think the very best one. She was amazing. And I think it was the best thing for me because had I just been left up to my own accord and not, I had to pay her 6 figures, by the way, too, to write
Mhm.
this book with me. I would have probably canceled every appointment, like, and just I still miss deadlines even by hiring a ghostwriter. Okay. So we met every single Friday.
Because I feel like your mind is sort of like mine, where it's just going, going, going,
Yeah.
going, going up. Oh,
Yep.
they're all over. That's why I was wondering how you did this
Yeah.
and what were you
So
doing
we met
else?
every single Friday. She listened to every single one of my podcasts. She digested all of my classes I've ever like given. So she had full access to all my courses. So she could really understand what I teach and what I'm trying to get across. She also watched a ton of coaching videos of me coaching people.
Mm.
So she really got to know my voice that way. And then every Friday we would talk. And then every week she would get a new chapter written. And then, you know, I'd read it and I'd make the changes. And then once we had all of the chapters together, I flew out to Nashville where she lives. And we spent a week together, literally just going word for word for word. And I'd read it out loud and I'd say, no, I don't like that. And then we'd swap the whole thing and
So
change it up.
hard.
It was the best thing ever. Like it was the most amazing experience. I keep telling Amy, I'm like, I can't wait to write my second book with you because you're
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, so it was really a collaborative effort because I don't think I could have I would have been able to write the book. It wouldn't have been as effective, I think, as the book is today because she was so helpful in helping me connect all the dots and put it on paper.
Right, right. Because
I
I
think a
think
lot of people don't talk about that. Like they
they
don't talk about
don't.
the fact that they use ghostwriters, and I'm not a
Mhm.
gatekeeper, so I'm like, here you go.
Right.
But Amy has worked with like top authors that you would not know. Like they don't let her like say that she's done these books. And so I was like, I'm going to scream your name from the rooftops because like, you know, I'm in my zone of genius, you're in your zone of genius, and we're going to help a lot of people this way.
And you like to share. And I think
I'm a
sharing, I
yeah.
am too. I am too. And I think that's so helpful to other women because a lot of them are afraid to share. So let's
Yeah.
get into you elaborating a little bit on the concept of little me and how it influences our decision making as
Oh,
adults. I know
yeah.
this is big. This is big.
I know it's so good. And I'm looking over here because I have a tub of photos of little Cayla over here that I'll just pull out one a day and look at her because a lot of us hate ourselves on the way to success.
Mm.
We don't want to, you know, like go, oh, like I was a chubby kid growing up. And so I got into a business when I was 23, that was health and wellness, where, the skinnier you were, the more money you made. That's really was the name of that game. And I mean,
Unfortunately.
it caused me to have an eating disorder. I had all these issues from it. But, and, I laugh about it now because there's so much trauma I've had to unpack with all that kind of stuff. But
Well, you look beautiful
I
and very healthy.
yes, now, right? Thank you. But I did it because I hated the chubby little girl that got made fun of. Right. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I never want to be made fun of again. So I'm going to starve myself every Monday and Tuesday and, you know, eat 1,000 calories every single day while working out twice a day. Like this and growing a baby. Like, I mean, it's just crazy the stuff that like was happening in my mind. But I did that because I hated chubby little Cayla. When in reality, like if I would have adored chubby little Cayla that had her, her parents get divorced when she was 5, her dad was arrested and went to jail when she was 6. They lost their family home when she was 8. Like this girl was just trying to survive, like poor thing. And what if I just loved her? And, I wouldn't have ended up with an eating disorder later on. So it's about, and I've seen other authors, they talk about, oh, your inner critic, your inner bully. It's like, why do we want to refer to that version of ourselves? She's just a survivor. She's trying to keep us safe. And the more that we love her and nurture her, she's not going to come up and try to keep us from that next level of success. She's going to actually work with us and help us like be more successful. And so there's a lot of different versions of you. In the book, I talk about how one of my good friends, Dr. Jen Chrisman, she explained it to me as, a bus. If you can imagine a bus,
I love that. That's a great analogy.
right? If you can
Mhm.
imagine a bus, there's always someone driving the bus in your life. And usually it's a current or past version of yourself. If you're extremely aware, it's a current version of yourself driving that bus. But if you're trying to make moves and change lives, you actually need a future version of yourself driving that bus and making decisions from that place. You don't want a past 10-year-old self driving the bus on the way to becoming a millionaire because she doesn't understand the way money works. She doesn't understand the way business works. She's going to make some, bad decisions along the
Yeah.
way. And so you want to put all the past versions of yourself in the back of the bus, all buckled up. They get to come with you. We love them. They get to come along on the journey. But the future version, I call her champion self, needs to be driving the bus to get you to where you need to go.
That's a big step for a lot of people. And even working with that inner child is challenging. I didn't start doing that kind of work until I'm 63 now, until I was 61 after my mom died.
Oh,
And I felt that both parents were gone. It was time for me to dig deep into things that I didn't want to maybe face while she was still alive. And it's
wow.
incredible work. Everybody should do it. So I was so happy that you were writing about it. And you have questions at the end of the book about inner child questions. And I did send them to my daughters. I'm like,
Oh,
I know I was as perfect as I could be as a mom. So, and feel free to share these things with me. So we'll see. I'll let you know how it works out.
I love that. And in the book, I also anybody who buys the book from this podcast, just message me on Instagram and I'll make sure to give you access to my course. What do you really
Thank
want? I'll
you.
give everybody listening in free access to it as long as they buy the book. And it'll walk them through every single chapter. So they can really get some extra help with those questions and stuff like that. But, even when I was writing the book, I'm like, I'm not a therapist. Like, who am I to write
Right.
about this stuff that's changed my
Mhm.
life? And I was like talking to God about it. And he made me realize that I'm the perfect person to write the book about it because I'm coming from a lay person's point of view. I'm not, yes, I bring science into it. And I consulted with psychotherapists for some of these exercises I brought into the book. But it was like, I wanted to show people it's not scary because when people hear inner child, they're like,
Yes.
it kind of frees up. They're like, oh, I don't want to go back there. My childhood was fine. It's good. Look, I'm fine today. And
Very true.
right. And so, anyways, I wanted to come from that like perspective of I'm a very successful person, and here is what I did to actually be happy.
And they're easy. So let's go through them.
Okay.
What is the take 7 approach? Let's go through it. Number
Well,
one,
there's 7 questions,
7
and the
questions,
quality
right?
of the questions we ask ourselves is what will determine the quality of our life. And so when people ask themselves, what do I really want? They kind of freeze. They go, oh, it feels so finite, right? It's like, oh,
I'm
yeah,
telling you, like I took notes, I
got all
highlighted,
the
it's
notes over
crazy. It's
here.
crazy. Yes, go
But
ahead.
people walk by this and they go, what do I really want? They go, what do I really want? What do I really want? They actually become more confused because it's not the first question to ask yourself. The best question to ask yourself in the beginning is number one, what's not working for me right now in my life? And I don't care, like your life could be so fantastic right now. If you ask yourself this question, what's not working for me in my life, you're gonna find something that needs improvement. And so write it down. So, uh, I'm going to take an example of money because that's what I'm known for. But a lot of people will go, what's not working for me in my life? My student loan debt. Okay, when did you first start accepting? This is, step 2. When did you first start accepting that? Well, you know, student loans and the normalcy of student loans has really been drilled into people since a young age. People just expect, oh yeah, I'm going to have student loan debt,
Right.
and it's just a norm. But then you get there and you're an adult and you go, I don't want this to be my norm. It's actually weighing me down and keeping me heavy. But it's important to understand when it first started, because then in step 3, what version of myself is showing up right now? And it's usually, that childhood self, that teenage self that thought it was a really good idea to take out $100,000 student loan, you know, and she had all these justifications for why. And instead of being mad at her, which is what most people will do, God, how could you be so stupid to think you should take out $100,000 student loan? What were you thinking? We're going to love that version of her because she was just doing the best she could with what she knew at the time. Everybody else around her was taking out student loans, and she wanted to get a degree because she was told by everybody you need a degree to have a good life, right? So she was doing the best she could. She had good intentions around it. So let's actually love that version of her that took a risk on herself and said, you're worthy of this. Like, you're worthy of going after your dreams. Like, do you see how empowering that is? I get chills saying that because when we start to go like, oh, I'm not a victim. She wasn't a victim. She chose this. Let me love on her. And then let's get really creative on how we're going to figure out our way out of this situation. Right.
I think so many women forget about self-compassion.
Mhm.
And we feel that as women, we're supposed to be this matriarch. We're supposed to be strong for our family and take care of everything, but we forget sometimes. Often you hear this with women because I've been coaching women for 35 years that they don't make themselves a priority and they need to first have some compassion and nurture that.
Mm. Unforgiveness it's like drinking that poison,
Mm,
every single day. The hatred, it just starts to boil
right,
up and then disease happens, because of all the suppression of the emotions
right.
that we're having in our bodies. So I love that you're doing that work and helping people be fearlessly authentic, because it's so powerful. Like, we weren't taught this what,
No.
like, even though our parents did the best they could, right? They did the best they could. They didn't know this stuff. We have so much access to information now where, a lot of us are consciously parenting now, and we're making better choices for our kids. But let's not hate the parents that, did that. It's just having compassion for them, having compassion for yourself. It starts with you. When you can really truly have compassion for yourself, then you can have it for other people, and you don't take life so seriously. If somebody cuts you off or if somebody is rude to you at the store, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And you just kind of let it roll off of you. And then you end up being so much happier.
Right. Like when you hear people complain about comments made from trolls and things like that, and it's not you, it's them. And it all starts with you. I love that you said that because it is true. At the end of the day, it starts with you. How do you want to think? How do you want to react? How do you want to act? And again, you're so vulnerable. You share so much in the book that is relatable, that I found relatable. We're probably over 30 years apart, but it's still life. And stuff happens when we're younger and throughout our lives. So we got to let's see,
Step 3. So
3, right?
Step 4 is just, where can I find a better perspective here? Like, how can I reframe this? I call it. And, let's go back to the student loan,
Mhm.
it's something that carries over so many people. So the perspective is like, I'm grateful for that. That debt served me for a certain period in my life. And it helped me become X, Y, and Z. Start listing out all the reasons why you're grateful. Oh, I met my husband in university, da, 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 da. Like, I met my best friends, like all of the reasons why we're so grateful for this, which leads us into step 5, which is, where is gratitude? And step 6 is, what do I really want? So, oh, I want to be debt free. Okay. Well, what's the opposite of debt free? You want to have abundance. So
Mhm.
it's really getting clear on, like, I don't want to just be debt free. I want to have an overflow. I want to have extra cash. I don't want things weighing me down. I want to be the lender and not the borrower. And
Mhm.
so it's awesome. We got really clear. I want to make more money. I don't want to have this looming over me. Step 7 is, what's the next best step for me to take? So if you know you need to make more money, well, what is the next best step right now? Uh, Figure out, all of your gifts and talents and figure out how you can monetize them. People think, oh, well, let me just go get a promotion and let me, slowly make more money. It's like, no, add an extra stream of income. And I talk about that in the book as well. So, the next best step, there's going to be 1,000 steps you have to take in order to become a millionaire, in order to become financially free, but focus on the next best step. Don't focus on the 1,000 steps. If you knew all the steps you were going to have to take in order to become financially free, you would settle for just having debt right now. I promise you, you wouldn't show up for it, because it's hard work. It's facing some demons inside of you. It's facing the things that, have been strongholds in your life. I know that, like, I look back, you asked about, well, how'd you become an ER nurse to an entrepreneur? At 23 years old, if you would have told me all the betrayal, the pain, just the problems I was going to have to endure in order to get to where I am right now, at 37, I would have said, yeah, I'm good. I'll stay as an ER nurse. 100%.
Right.
I wouldn't have signed up for it.
Right. Because it would have been overwhelming, almost like writing the book, right? If you
Yeah.
knew everything, because it probably became bigger than you thought, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have done it, but you're so happy that you did, and so happy that you went through all of the trials and tribulations. And there's probably going to be more as well, but keeping your heart and your head open to accepting. And you said something about being open and receiving. I think it was about, I want to be the giver, not the borrower. When you were
Yeah.
talking
I want to
about
be the lender and not the
the
borrower.
lender, not the borrower,
Yeah.
right? What in each question? So the first one, what's not working for me in my life? I loved that question. I love it. What is the biggest pushback you get with each question? What would you say is your biggest pushback from each question that you ask when you're working with your clients?
I mean, well, some people are just, most entrepreneurs, in order to be successful, and I work with some really successful people, you got to be a little delusional. You do. You have, and I admit I am probably one of the most delusional people. My husband's always like, come back down to earth, Cayla. Like, okay. So it's a good thing. Like, being delusional is helpful on your way to success. But if you're stuck in a certain area, delusion will not help you, because
Mm,
the first step in transformation is awareness. So, and then we got to accept it. So we have to become aware of the problem. We have to accept the problem. Then we can transform the problem. And so most high achievers, they go, everything's great, because they are so trained to stay positive and look at the good in life. They can't see the problems. And that's why it's really helpful to have a coach, have that outside perspective, and they will poke holes at your plans and they will show you your blind spots.
mm,
So that way you can, get to where you want to go a lot quicker. But that's probably the biggest thing, is they'll be like, no, everything's great in my life. I have such a great life. Meanwhile, their marriage is falling apart. And I'm like, how do you not see this? So that's probably the biggest pushback I get there. The next pushback I get is people just not wanting to talk about former versions
mm,
of themselves. They can't remember things, and our mind will not reveal things to us as a protection mode.
mm,
So we don't want to, like, try to, like, force, memories to come. We don't actually want to do that. but because it could be unsafe if you're doing it all alone. But one thing that's helpful for me with clients is just saying, hey, like, tell me about your favorite childhood memory.
Mm.
And that can actually show me a lot about what their childhood was like. I'll say, what was your mom like? What was your dad like? You know, how did you perform in school? And then they'll be open to start talking more about their childhood and what was happening. But off the gate, like, what version of yourself is showing up right now? They're like, what? Huh?
Right, right. So there's that self-awareness and also allowing themselves to be vulnerable and you creating that safe environment for them, right?
Right, right.
Knowing that you're going to guide them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think is the hardest question to answer here?
Oh,
Or the hardest step for anybody?
yeah, I think that the hardest step is usually the perspective and actually owning a new perspective because we get so used to having, I call them familiar spirits.
Mhm.
It's like what people say, the devils we know. We get used to being a victim. We get used to settling for less and justifying why we're settling for less. And so when we start to gain a new perspective and say, hey, I chose my everything in my life right now. I chose every problem I have. People go, oh my gosh, that doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
But
Right.
the moment you do that, you accept radical responsibility for where you are. What's so great is you're now empowered in that moment to choose something new, right? When you say, I do have control and I can change my life, then you start to think differently.
Mm.
God gave us an imagination, and most of us use our imagination for worry, anxiety, and doubt. And what we want to use I think of Willy Wonka. We want to use our pure imagination. We want to
Yes.
just think that what if up thinking, like all the good things that can come if I just take the next best step. And that's where we want to train our brains to go. But it's really hard because we have that familiar area over here. That's the
Right.
worry, the doubt, and the anxiety.
It's hard to walk away from the things that you're so familiar with. That's the hardest. That's where you have to break free from those things.
Yes.
That's where the inner child, the champion you, helps out more and
Absolutely.
identifying that.
And that's like, so you can know your champion self and you're going to have to do a lot of work, right?
Right.
And your mind is so lazy, it doesn't want to do any of this work. It
Right.
doesn't want to. It's like, nope, that's too hard. You got to think differently all day, every day. I don't want to do it. And this is why the best thing you can do is find other people who are on a growth journey, who have a growth mindset, who are not committed to their comfort zone. You got to hang out with them because it becomes contagious, and you go, okay, I could do this. I could do the hard things. I could challenge myself. But if you keep hanging out with people you've always hung out with, you won't change. So it's so important to, if you're stuck right now, get in a new environment, start hanging out with new people. I'm not saying dump your old friends, right?
Right.
But get a new group that is going to help you grow. And I'll tell you, for me, my new group was actually working out. Okay. I went to a gym where it was really fun, lots of group classes. I knew nobody, but I was doing this thing called booty yoga at the time. And I just got super into it. I went like 3 or 4 times a week. I ended up getting certified, and it was challenging myself and something that nobody knew who Cayla Craft was at booty yoga. So I went in and I was like trying all these hard poses, and it gave me the confidence I needed to go, okay, I'm going to start Mommy Millionaire. I'm going to do this. Like, I can do the hard things. I can break out of network marketing and do this thing. And it started with working out. So, it doesn't always have to be a business move that you're making, but it just needs to be some type of challenge, and being around people that will challenge you too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you also said something earlier about um like changing who we are, evolving. When I asked you about being an ER nurse, you said that seems so long ago. And I guess what I'd love to hear from you is letting the listeners know that they have permission to change and they
Mhm.
shouldn't fear the change, even though it is hard. I went through it, you went through it. How does somebody get on that into that time, that frame of mind that I have permission to change. I have permission to have the life that I deserve
Yeah.
and
Well, I mean,
desire.
if you're not changing, you're dying.
Right.
There's a reason why there's 4 seasons. There's always, the trees are always changing. Nature is always changing. It's showing us that change is a part of growth. It's a part of your future, right? And so, like right now, I'm personally going through a change in my life. My family is moving across the country to a place I don't want to move to. Nothing in me goes, oh, I want to move to Minnesota. But it's for my boys. My why, my ultimate why at 23 years old was to give my kids everything I never had. And, Cooper has this amazing opportunity to play hockey up there, and it's could set him up for, a really great future. And so we're doing it. So it's a part of my why. Is it an easy why? No, it's so hard to leave my best friends and like the most beautiful, I think
Wow.
it's the most beautiful place. I just got home from Mexico and I came home to Newport. I'm like, why would I ever leave this place? It's so
And
amazing. And
going to Minnesota. Wow. Wow.
yeah, right. And it's like totally leaving my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm changing my perspective around it, going, okay, well, you want to set your kids up for success. You're scared of change right now. And so you got to practice what you preach. You got to go into this new environment and you got to go, okay, God, what do you have for me here? Who do you have for me to serve? And that's how I'm going into it. It's going, okay, it's a season because I am not going to live there forever, but it's a season while he's in high school. And I'm like, gosh, it kind of becomes a game to me. We have 4 years. How many lives can we impact in Minnesota, in this little community that we're going to be in? How many more, real estate doors can I buy? Because I'm going to be saving so much money living there. Like I'm making it a game now.
I
And
love that.
that's helpful for change, right? Like we
Right.
got to gamify things. Because, if I looked at it like it's a doom and gloom thing, like, oh my God, my life is over. What am I going to do? I'm losing all my best friends. Da, 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 da. It's like, that sounds like absolute torture. Who
It's going to
wants
be great. I'm excited for you. It's going to be great.
Thank you. I'm
It's
excited. I'm getting it more and more excited. The more I like try to frame my perspective around it, which is the point for everybody listening in right now.
right.
The most powerful thing you own at any given time is your perspective, right? And you got to constantly sell yourself on the perspective you want to buy. So you want to be financially free. You want to have time freedom. You want to have good friends. You want to be in a healthy relationship. Okay. Well, what do you need to believe in order to experience all these things? You've got to believe different thoughts in each of those categories. You got to believe it, and then you got to be it, right? You got to be it. And so I think a lot of people, they don't take the time to go and say, I got to think something new, and I've got to be somebody different.
Right. We can't just say, I want to be like Cayla Craft, because Cayla Craft didn't become that overnight.
Right.
And you are still working on yourself.
Every
And
day.
right. And I think that's what so many people believe. Well, how do I look like that? How do I act like that? How do I have that financial independence? Well, there are steps to it. You're not just going to run there in, in a sprint and get there. It doesn't happen like that. And if
And
it
this is
happens,
why I'm so obsessed with coaching. It's because when you invest in a coach, they're going to help you stay accountable to the next step and then the next step and then the next step. Right. So I'm always working with a mentor that's helping me see things in a new way, take new steps. And, for people listening in right now, you might go, oh, well, I can't afford it. It's like,
can you
you know,
afford not?
you can't afford not to. You can't
Right.
afford not to. And there's always something you can do in order to work with a coach. Maybe you don't work with the top coach that charges 6 figures in the beginning. Maybe you work with somebody, just an accountability coach that's a couple $100, So like start somewhere and show yourself that you're worthy of that accountability piece and, keep going.
That's great advice. I think you also mentioned this in the book that we need to use our biggest asset, which is us.
Yes.
And so many of us overlook that we are our biggest asset. If we don't provide education and keep learning, how are we going to use this asset?
Mhm.
And I love that point. And There's so many other points. Everybody who's listening, please go out and buy this book. It will begin to start changing the way you think. It's called What Do You Really Want? We have 2 minutes left. I wanted for you to tell everybody how they can reach you.
Yeah.
Best
So
way.
I have a podcast too. It's called The Crafted Entrepreneur.
It's
I'd
so
love
good.
everybody to listen into that. And also, like I said, if you buy the book, just send me a screenshot of the book and I'll give you access to our free course. What do you really want? It's really powerful. I take you through every single step of the book. And yeah, you can find me on all social media channels. It's just CAYLA.CRAFT. And Jody, thank you so much for having me on today. You're so good at this. And I loved our conversation.
Thank you. I really, as I said at the beginning, I felt like after I read the book, I knew you so well. I've listened to your podcast. I've listened to you on other people's podcasts, and I've been following you, and I just said, I have to have this woman on my show. So I am thrilled that you are here and sharing your wealth of knowledge. And, congratulations on the book. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
And for everybody listening, go out and buy the book right now. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And until next week, go live your most fearlessly authentic life. Bye-bye, everyone.